Welcome to Empowered Transformation with your host, Christa Dawson. Over the next hour, you will learn about tools that will support your healing process and living a life full of purpose and joy. Now, here is Christa.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of Empowered Transformation, or at least this pilot series. This has been such an amazing experience, and today I'm going to share this experience with you. My dear friend Tabatha, who you have encountered several times now on this show, will be joining me today as my co-host. And she's going to help me tell the story of how I ended up here at VoiceAmerica. And it's been an amazing experience, and I can't wait to share more of that with you. I want to take a minute to recap what the purpose of this 13-week series was as I made this decision, or when I made the decision to go ahead and get in contract with VoiceAmerica and host this 13-week series. I felt very compelled to make the focus of the show on energy psychology, which is a form of therapy that treats the healing process as a multidimensional process. It is not, you're not left with just talking through whatever's bothering you. It's helping you access all of the layers of who you are as a human being and helping you to form a companionship with all of these parts of you to deepen your healing experience. And so that has been the focus of the show. And if you have questions about energy psychology and what that means, tools like emotional freedom technique or tapping, Tab's favorite is AIT, Advanced Integrative Therapy. You can go back on the episodes and look them up and hear more about the specifics of energy psychology and what makes it unique. And so that is what the focus of this show has been. And really, at the heart of all of this, it is giving you tools, or my intention was to give you tools to help you learn how to balance and really heal your nervous system. And energy psychology offers amazing tools to help you in that process. And so let's go ahead and open and get intentional. Let's take a moment to pause and bring our awareness into our body and intend or make an intention for this next hour. So I'm going to have you bring your awareness into your body. Tune into your posture, acknowledging that you are working with your energy all the time, and the subtlest adjustments in things as simple as your posture can shift how you're perceiving yourself and your situation and what's going on around you. You are exquisitely tuned in to subtle cues. Your body is an amazing piece of equipment that you're operating from. And so aligning your head over your shoulders, visualizing a string attached to the back of your head, gently tugging up on the back of your head, elongating your neck. Your chin might be slightly tucked or parallel with the floor. Inviting your shoulders gently back and down. If you'd like, you can take a deep breath in, pulling your shoulders up to your ears. And exhale, gently rolling them back and down, allowing them to hang or hinge in a gently opening posture, opening that chest. Notice how that feels. If you're a person that's accustomed to armoring or defending or protecting yourself, you may find this uncomfortable. If you do, just observe how that feels without judgment. Explore the discomfort and align your shoulders over your hips, cultivating a nice straight spine. And the next thing I'm going to have you do is place your hand over your heart center. This is such a powerfully grounding gesture. Allow it to pull your awareness in to that heart center. Become aware of your breath. Perhaps visualizing that breath moving in and out through your heart center. Cultivating that mind-body connection. understanding that where attention goes, energy flows. So you've got your attention on that beautiful heart center, that center of your being with your hand. And now awareness of your breath moving in and out through your heart center. Resting your tongue in your mouth, a powerful way to activate the vagus, the rest and digest, to cue your body into safety and relaxation, allowing it to rest comfortably in the floor of your mouth. Putting a gentle smile or maybe an inner smile on your face. It doesn't have to be anything big or fake, just a gentle smile, an inner smile. This activates all kinds of healing in your body. And it's my intention for this next hour that you walk away with a tool or maybe learning something that you didn't know, that you leave this hour feeling inspired to stay on your path, to stay on your healing journey. And most importantly, that you are invited into a deeper sense of compassion and compassion for yourself, for maybe tools or coping mechanisms that you created or cultivated to stay safe, to stay alive. And return to compassion toward yourself. And so with this intention, I'm going to have you take a deep breath in through your nose, breathing in this intention, and a long, slow exhale out your mouth. Good. You are officially here. I am officially here.
Welcome.
I can't decide if that's for me or you. Hopefully you benefit from it as much as I do. So again, introducing my dear friend Tabatha as my co-host today. She is a duly licensed professional counselor in the state of Oregon. She is an associate or an ambassador for the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology since 2009. She is a peer-reviewed published researcher regarding complex trauma, the treatment of complex trauma, and the transmission of complex trauma. And she is the co-founder and host of the CPTSD podcast, which if you have questions about trauma and complex trauma, if you've experienced trauma, that's a great place for you to go and learn more about it. Empower yourself with information. The more you understand about how these things happen, how trauma happens, what it is, how it affects your body and your nervous system, the better off you're going to be in guiding yourself out of those reactive states. She also provides clinical and spiritual services through her private practice, specializing in complex trauma, energy psychology, and human development and potential. And so thank you, Tabatha, for joining me in this last episode and helping me tell my story.
Well, thank you, Christa, for being trusting of my support. And your story is amazing. So I bet people can't wait to hear what's going on.
I'm excited to share. It's a good story.
It is a good story. Do you want to start off with a little recap about how you ended up here? And then I'm sure you're going to move into what you've learned from this experience.
Absolutely. So just going a little further back, how I was even introduced to energy psychology in general, came from an experience with Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disorder, which was a byproduct of a really stressed, unhappy life full of inner suffering, not necessarily produced by what was going on around me, but, was produced internally, and had an effect on the lens that I perceived myself through and through my life, and being overwhelmed with coping mechanisms that led me into behaviors and lifestyle that was not supportive for health. And eventually it took a toll. I ended up with an autoimmune disorder and had a really, really powerful experience with emotional freedom technique, or tapping, which is probably the most well-researched energy psychology modality. It's been around for a really long time. If you want to know more about EFT, you can go to my website. There's all kinds of information online. You can go to my website. You can go to my YouTube page to learn more about EFT. Anyway, I had this really powerful experience where I saw my body in real time respond to releasing stuck, stored energy based on negative thoughts and feelings. It was so profound that in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what just happened here, but what just happened was the closest to a miracle that I have ever experienced, and I have to learn more. And so that really started a journey toward healing and learning about the nervous system and regulating the nervous system and learning more about the dimensions of the healing process. And what that did was it took my life from a general state of suffering and feeling like life was not for me, it was against me.
Ouch, that's a hard place to be.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, I think I described it as, my life felt like Murphy's Law all the time. If anything could go wrong, it was going to go wrong. And that's how I lived and perceived my life. And as I began to use these tools, I began to shift out of that perception of life and that state of suffering into a more empowered state where I was able to respond rather than react. I started developing tools and growing the ability to pause, to reevaluate, to invite myself into a more balanced state. And from that more balanced state, you have better access to creativity, to problem solving. Life just looks different. And so that takes you to the way back. And then on one fine day, gosh, I think it was last summer, I fielded this phone call from Robert Cellino, the executive producer of VoiceAmerica. And he left this very interesting message about, hey, I read your bio and I've been, I've looked at your website and wow, you have had this amazing experience. How would you feel about hosting a radio show? And I can tell you, that was the furthest thing from my mind.
Kind of dropped in your lap.
Yeah, as a possibility or something that was even, that it was even a possibility. Then I think that that's one of the things that I'd like to point out is with the development of elasticity, the ability to regulate yourself, the ability to access more creativity and play, you also develop trust. Trust in your ability to take leaps of faith. Trust in yourself and your ability to learn and do new things. And trust in your inner guidance, trusting that you're going to have what you need as you need it, as you move through your healing process. And so this to me was such an interesting idea, like what? So I called Robert back and we started this dialogue, why should I do this? What is this? Where does this come from? Anyway, after quite a long time of, several conversations with Robert and a lot of conversations with people that I trust, including you, Tabatha, giving me guidance and things to think about before I made the decision. And I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks before I asked Robert, hey, give me 3 or 4 weeks to really think about this. And anyway, what kept coming through was this sense of what I will call inner guidance.
Yep.
That is a developed thing. We've talked in the past episodes, the nuts and bolts of the return to wholeness. We talk about this thing that we call the center, where you learn to listen and you learn to tune in to that higher. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to pop in and say that's such an important point because the voice is actually always there. Sometimes it's muted or muffled, or we've just learned to not pay attention to it or to have any hope in it. But if you're somebody who feels like you can't connect to your center, this would be a fantastic place to start because you will learn a lot.
Right. Yes. And that's, yes, thank you for pointing that out. And again, when you regulate the nervous system, it's easier to make access with that center. It's always present there for you, but much more easily accessed when you're balanced. So I agreed to this 13-week experience with Voice America. And again, some of the things that are hallmarks for me in terms of, this was a divinely appointed opportunity that I didn't have to say yes to. I could have chosen not to do it, and that would have been fine too. But I knew that I was signing on for opportunity and growth, huge opportunity for growth, to step outside of my comfort zone, to take that leap of faith that I had worked so hard to develop the ability to trust. And so this was an opportunity to do that. And so I followed that inner guidance and I said yes. And we're getting ready to take our first break. And I'm going to just set the stage for, I knew I was signing on for some things.
Right.
Yeah. In taking that leap of faith, I knew I was signing on for being uncomfortable, for having to learn things that I didn't know how to do. It was going to force me to do some things that I'd been putting off for a long time.
Yep. You gave yourself a nudge.
I sure did. And so I knew I was signing on for getting really uncomfortable, having to learn new tools. I was signing on for and saying yes to the universe. I trust that I have what I need within myself, and I will be supported through this process in taking this leap of faith. And the other thing that I knew that I was signing on for was not only a professional growth, but also I knew I was signing on for some really deep interpersonal growth that we will talk about in our next segment. So don't go away. We will be right back.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Are you tired of feeling stuck? Are you suffering from a chronic illness, addiction issues, lack of motivation, a negative mindset, and a lack of purpose? Do you dream of a life full of purpose and the ability to respond rather than react? And what if you could see yourself through the eyes of compassion while you're in the process of creating the life of your dreams? It will be a process. Dream Makers is designed to empower transformation from being stuck and unsatisfied to a life that is moving forward with purpose and joy. You will get clear on your dreams and the limiting subconscious beliefs that block you from seeing them through. You will learn and be supported in implementing tools that develop the mind-body connection and rewire your brain for success and mastery. Dream Makers is a 12-week online course with weekly live Zoom meetings, a book and workbook, access to accountability, and group support. Spots are limited. Experts say that if a person could do one thing to increase health and happiness, expressing gratitude would be it. Gratitude is an easy, attainable way to improve your outlook and begin rewiring your brain for resilience. You will learn the clinically proven benefits of a gratitude practice, why and how gratitude works to rewire your brain for resilience, and most importantly, a simple but powerful way to amplify your gratitude practice that will benefit your mind and body while improving your outlook.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Empowered Transformation with Christa Dawson. If you have questions or want to contact Christa, go to ChristaDawson.com. Now, back to the show.
And we are back. Before Tabatha takes over again, I wanted to just draw your attention to the ads that you heard in between there talking about Dream Makers, which is a 12-week online course that I hold that we'll be talking about in more detail, but just briefly, it is a framework to help you cultivate a consistent, if not everyday, practice for your life that's going to support you in changing your life. If you want things to be different, you have to show up different, which means you are going to need to be investing energy in cultivating these skills. And the other thing you heard about was a free offering, my gratitude practice offering, which is designed to help you reap the benefits of gratitude. It is a life-changing, brain-changing, simple way to implement a practice that will invite all kinds of shifts. So you can find access to those on my website, christadawson.com. And with that, Tabatha, take it away.
I would just underscore the fact, Christa, that both the things you're talking about, gratitude as well as your Dream Makers course, are absolutely good ways to get in touch with that center part that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. And speaking of personal development, I'm really curious to hear more about that interpersonal growth that you had. What happened?
Yeah. So, there were some really obvious places that I knew I was going to experience growth taking on this, learning how to host a show. And again, this was the furthest thing from my mind, the idea of hosting a live radio show. And what I learned in that, and I have to giggle at the universe dumped in my lap, hey, you have this skill set, whether you're aware of it or not. I'm going to help you be aware of this. And it was something I had a very natural aptitude for. And so after I got over the jitters, it became very natural and something I'm good at. And I would have never known had I not said yes to this opportunity. And I could have said no, and that would have been fine too. But I took the opportunity, and it has produced, again, a ton of personal growth. And the other thing I knew would happen, but I wasn't sure how it was going to happen, was that there was going to be some really deep interpersonal stuff coming up. When you step into a relationship with yourself that allows you to take leaps of faith and allows you to really access courage and trust, you are making space for all of those really deep wounds to start coming up to the surface. And boy, howdy, did that happen. Just by nature of some things that happened in my life over the last year, it set things up for me to be reacquainted with some really deep emotional wounding. And I dipped back into experiences with depression, feeling, and I've been here before about, maybe 20 years ago. I had my first real experience with depression and anxiety, and it took me out for quite a while. And the difference between then and now is I have tools. I have a well-developed awareness of center. I have developed skills in regulating my nervous system. I have layers of trust and faith that I didn't have before. And yes, Tabatha, you have a question.
No, I just wanted to pop in because tying this back into what we've talked about, that one thing I say is like you spiral down when you're not doing well. Well, we also spiral up when we're healing. And so I like the way you're describing this, because that depression was as real to you this last time as it was the first time. The difference was that you had skills, you had expanded that window of tolerance so you could stand the experience you were having and make decisions about what to do. And I just really appreciate you bringing that back up this time around.
Right. And I think, something that the terms that you have used in the past shows, I think are really helpful too. There's a difference between suffering and pain.
Yep.
I was able to experience pain and make it useful.
Yes.
That pain gave me access to some wounds that had been trying to be heard and seen for a very long time. And what you can't feel, you can't heal. And so I really viewed it more as an opportunity to touch back in, to give the origins of these pain, that wounded child, infant, the opportunity to feel seen and heard. I got myself back into therapy, which again, the power of co-regulating with people that are holding space for you. They're tuned into you in a way that we really need, we're designed for. And so I took the steps to support myself through the process. Healers, or being a healer, doesn't mean you're all done with healing. What it means is that you have some skill.
Right. And if you think you're all done with healing, you've just started.
Exactly. And so, and that's really true I thought that my life couldn't feel any more expansive. And yet here I am, it gets more, and I recently have felt this way. I didn't think my life could get any more expansive than it already was. And it's getting more expansive. And I didn't think that, and so the same goes for pain. You're never going to stop having opportunities to dip into pain periodically. It is a part of our experience on this planet. All of our experiences are meant to move through us. And that's a cultivated skill as well. So anyway, saying yes to this opportunity offered all the things that I knew that it would. I wanted to also just say thank you to Voice America for the support that I had here. I had an amazing executive producer who moved me through this process with such wisdom and such grace. He was always kind. He didn't overwhelm me with too much information. As I started doing the show, my job was to listen to the show, and he would listen to it, and then we would meet every Friday and we would talk through it. And he would give me little bits of advice without overwhelming me. At one point, he had all of the executive producers sit in with me for a meeting and offer their suggestions, and they were all really great suggestions. And so I felt very supported by Voice America. It was an amazing experience. And my audio tech, Josh, who again was a person who offered such great advice and gave me great tidbits of information at the end of the shows or while we were doing the show. And so again, a shout out to Voice America for being and doing a great job and doing a great job at what you do and giving a platform or creating a platform for people like myself to share things we're passionate about.
Yeah. And I just want to point out to your audience that right now you are witnessing Christa do gratitude. And it's grounding, and it helps you expand and have that confidence when you have gratitude. And trust me, I know a lot of times it feels like we have nothing to be grateful about, but even you can be grateful about anything, including the fact that you have new toenail polish on or that you get to have ice cream today. It doesn't matter. Start where you're at.
Yes.
Christa, I just wanted to support you by saying, give us any last minute tidbits about what you learned that you think is important. But I also know that even though you covered a huge array of topics, there were a couple more things you wanted to talk about before we said goodbye forever to the pilot series.
Right. Right. I just encourage you to continue to lean in to learning how to listen, to tune into your center, learn how, just learn how to listen and follow the opportunities that present themselves along the way. But even more important than that, whether you choose to take those opportunities or not, know that you are profoundly loved, just as you are in this moment, whether you take that leap or you don't. And there are great things for you at either end. And so I did get to share a lot of things that I was really passionate about in this last 13 weeks, but there were some things that I didn't get to share. And I wanted to, so Tabatha and I, and this will start dialoguing a little bit about, she and I really enjoy doing this together. And we have decided we're going to keep this going. We're not sure what it's going to look like.
It's going to look gorgeous.
It's going to be beautiful.
And delicious.
Yes. And so we'll talk a little bit more in the last segment about some of the ideas that we're thinking about, but some of the topics that I would love to explore with Tabatha in the future, and things that have been really integral parts of my healing journey, have been Reiki. I am a advanced, a Karuna Holy Fire, Karuna Reiki master, teacher, trainer. Reiki has been an absolutely I can't even describe.
I know, it's that good. It's that good.
It really is. It helps you really tune into the subtleties of spirit, of spirituality, of energy. The power of, just moving your body or your hands within somebody's field. You don't even have to touch them, It really gives you a framework to really explore the subtle body. The idea, one of the things that I love about Holy Fire Reiki and William Rand and his interpretation of this beautiful modality is that we all have this thing we call the ego, and it's been defined as something that's kind of negative. And he would say, we can have a healed ego. Your ego is what makes you unique. But what you can do is bring it into balance and become aware of the illusions that aren't supporting you, and coping mechanisms that are no longer supporting you. And so it is a very well-defined, powerful modality that I would love at some point to have guests come in and elaborate on the beauty and power of Reiki. The other modality that I didn't get to talk about that has been profoundly powerful in my life has been medicine work, psychedelics. I have a neighbor. It was sort of a wild experience. My neighbor, we both were moving in 2015 into our condominiums at the same time. And it's such a wild thing because we met, our names are almost the same. And it was like, I can't ever remember not knowing her. It was just sort of this divine appointment. And she is a licensed therapist, or is a trained therapist, has been in education for years in psychology, and as a retired person is using medicine to help people heal. And I got to be a part of her training into that, and then it has become an integral part of my experience. And medicine is powerful in helping to shake loose that really deep, stuck stuff you got going on in there. And this is not just, tripping balls,
right?
to, for fun. This is very intentional. You're going in with a guide who's holding space for you. It's a ceremony. You go in with an intention. There's integration before and after. And I just can't say enough for the modality. And, I've watched it. A young woman that I was acquainted with who has struggled with ADHD, depression, and suicidal, actually has attempted suicide. I watched her go from being okay to not being okay at all. And we were worried. And she did a ketamine treatment at a clinic, and it shifted her right back out. And so Medicine is something I would like to explore, bring to y'all through a podcast or something, and create a platform to talk a little bit more in detail about that. Have people come on that are using it and can explain in more detail what's happening. So medicine is another big one.
I just want to pop in with an idea about Reiki and medicine, both, if that's all right. First, thank you for the safety precaution of you don't just go out and get high and think you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You might, right? But having a guide and having an appropriate dose is really important. And so I think the more information you can provide for people, the better. Christa, it's a beautiful thing to talk about. And Reiki is a really powerful modality if you have complex trauma and do not want to be in your body. Because if you have a good practitioner, they can work with you without touching you. And that can be very important for some of us. But also it can help you start to understand the difference between when you're dissociated and when you're witnessing yourself, because they can feel similar, but they are not the same thing. So 2 beautiful modalities, Christa. Thanks for bringing those back up.
So those are things that I look forward to exploring in more detail. The other thing that I wanted, at some point I would love to have a platform to elaborate a bit more on just your own personal experience with, having ritual in your life. Finding places where, you've got folks, one of the things I love doing is hosting ceremony for people, hosting sound baths, hosting Wheel of the Year events where we celebrate and really learn to make connection with the seasons as they represent our experience here on Earth and the cycles that we're in all the time. And so you step into these really lovely relationships with yourself and the seasons, and your whole life becomes this beautiful, ceremonious experience where you're really embodying the beauty that you're living all the time.
Yep.
And acknowledging all aspects of it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as humans, we have ritual naturally. It's just that it's not always organized, right? And sometimes it's negative ritual, like negative self-talk after you make a mistake.
Right. So these were things I'd love to have a platform at some point to elaborate on for folks. So we're getting ready to take our second break. We are going to come back with the final tip of the week. So don't go away. We will be right back.
A little birdie told me Voice America is on Twitter. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Experts say that if a person could do one thing to increase health and happiness, expressing gratitude would be it. Gratitude is an easy, attainable way to improve your outlook and begin rewiring your brain for resilience. You will learn the clinically proven benefits of a gratitude practice, why and how gratitude works to rewire your brain for resilience, and most importantly, a simple but powerful way to amplify your gratitude practice that will benefit your mind and body while improving your outlook. Are you tired of feeling stuck? Are you suffering from a chronic illness, addiction issues, lack of motivation, a negative mindset, and a lack of purpose? Do you dream of a life full of purpose and the ability to respond rather than react? And what if you could see yourself through the eyes of compassion while you're in the process of creating the life of your dreams? It will be a process. Dreammakers is designed to empower transformation from being stuck and unsatisfied to a life that is moving forward with purpose and joy. You will get clear on your dreams and the limiting subconscious beliefs that block you from seeing them through. You will learn and be supported in implementing tools that develop the mind-body connection and rewire your brain for success and mastery. Dreammakers is a 12-week online course with weekly live Zoom meetings, a book and workbook, access to accountability, and group support. Spots are limited.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Empowered Transformation with Christa Dawson. If you have questions or want to contact Christa, go to christadawson.com. Now, back to the show.
Oh, I'm going to miss my little jingle. Welcome back to the final segment of the final episode of Empowered Transformation. So today's tip of this week's tip of the week is journaling. And to be really honest with you, it's not something that I do all the time. And I loved, when I was talking to Tabatha about this a while back, or just, as we were getting ready for this final episode, she had pointed out that a lot of people they have a lot of resistance to it. And, to tell somebody that you have to journal every day isn't going to sit well with a lot of people. And I don't journal every day. But as I dipped into these painful places here again recently, it was really helpful. And really used it to help me access that listening part of me. So, I sat in and I wrote what was going on internally, what my thoughts were. And then I would just, when I was done writing, I would just sit and I would be still for a while and tune in. And it would never fail. Beautiful insight would bubble up, or insight into better understanding of what was going on. And so journaling is a really, really powerful tool, and you can use it in a very simple way. You can write down what you're thankful for every day. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about getting what's in your head onto a piece of paper that's very unique. So is there anything you'd like to add to that tip of the week?
I just want to add for our anti-journalers out there, they do exist. An art journal counts. So take that on out and do what you need to do. And I have not been a journaler most of my life, but some of my best journal entries have come from when I've just been still, like you're talking about, or kind of in a meditative state with some doodles, and then words will pop out or ideas. And those are the things that I'm journaling. So you do not have to write paragraphs to journal.
Yes. Yeah. So powerful tool. If you're in a rough patch, it's a really great way to support yourself, really.
And a lot of clarity can come from journaling.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So passing the baton to you, Tabatha.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to check in and see if you wanted to say anything else about ceremony or season or clocking time by the moon versus the sun, any of those things, before I move us on to the next piece.
Yeah. Again, I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed understanding is that, your whole life is really a ceremony. And you have an opportunity to be aware of the connection you have with all that is and how the universe is reflected in nature. You are a walking, talking, tiny universe. And so taking the time to understand the power of the seasons, what they represent, and there are many traditions that offer amazing insight into all of these things. There's the traditional Chinese medicine that has amazing insight into the seasons, your body, emotions. Indigenous cultures, they would follow the year through moons. And anyway, there are just all these beautiful ways of being an observer of the cycles that we live through all the time in our lives. And so, and in that you can have or choose focal points that will, month to month, you have a focus for that month or for that season. You're really anchoring in on staying focused. And so you really step into ceremony and a companionship with yourself, with the seasons, with all of it. And it's a really rich place to operate from. So I think I'm ready to hop off that.
All right.
That soapbox.
All right. Well, it's a beautiful soapbox. Thank you for all of that. One of the things that we've talked about on your show, and I've talked about other places, is that other than like an accident or a tragedy, usually when we have trauma, it's often in the context of relationship. And I am a huge advocate of community building and healing within relationship, because that's where we learn co-regulation is safe and those other things that we've talked about. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the relational healing. And we're in spring, so the new territory, the new offering of life. What's come out of your relationships from having this show?
Oh, man. So as I spoke of earlier, this dive into some really deep personal wounds that were, one of the ways that these wounds played out in my life was in my parenting skills. And interestingly, medicine is part of this unfolding of this healing process. With my daughters, it put me in a position, all the work that I've done, I had a powerful medicine experience where I really got to see how much I didn't actually see my daughters and acknowledge that they didn't get from me what they deserved in a lot of ways. And I'm not exaggerating when, on that day, in that ceremony and in that experience with that medicine, I called my daughters over and I told them, without making excuses for myself, but without shame, because that would have prompted them to feel like they had to make me feel better. And that was not what I intended for them to take away. What I wanted them to hear was that I acknowledged that I hadn't seen them in the way that they deserved to be seen. And I didn't support them as completely and fully as I could have. I also acknowledged in that moment that I hadn't been either. And so what that has done it has set the stage for my daughters and I to step into a very real living relationship where we are working on our own selves. All three of us are in therapy, and we are working together. And so much so that my oldest daughter last week called me. She was listening to the show. And she suggested that maybe we do a podcast, the three of us, on healing generational trauma.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, if that was all that came out of that conversation, that was enough.
Absolutely.
But, again, like I shared earlier, when you think you can't expand anymore and life couldn't get any bigger and fuller and more meaningful, it does. Your experience is an eternal experience. You will always have opportunity for more expansion, more growth, more everything. And so this idea, so this leads us into this final segment where Tabatha and I are talking about what empowered transformation, or whatever it turns into, can look like.
I just want to take a minute before we hop down that train and recognize your beautiful emotion and all the love that you have pouring out for your kiddos and for yourself, and even for the people who have harmed you. Thank you for sharing that so vulnerably with us.
Well, it's really been very liberating. And had I not been doing the work that I'm doing, I would not have been able to do that. But by having the courage and the ability to do that, I have now set the stage for a very different dynamic between myself and my daughters that has the potential to be very forward moving and very deeply healing. And so...
And you've also set the cycle for them to heal genetically. And if they choose to have kids, have a different experience, like one up even better than what they had with you. And that has a lot of societal value.
Absolutely.
Right? Not just for them, although I'm glad they have that. Right.
Well, yeah. And let's not forget that do not underestimate the power of your own individual work on the collective. Anything and everything you do for yourself, you are powerfully doing for your own children, your immediate family, and you are also doing for the collective. You are healing the planet by healing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful stuff.
Really powerful.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about, first let's talk about dream makers.
Yeah, let's.
Just a teeny bit.
I would like to hear, like in the 12-week course, which I have not taken yet, but I'm so curious about what's the arc of that? What would that look like?
So I use Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning book. He's just a really inspiring character, and he really beautifully defines and lays out some really easy, applicable habits that a person can implement to support themselves in their healing journey, and becoming the person that they want to be. So I use his framework. The difference between just focusing on his work is that I also implement energy psychology and tools that help you to really lean into the multidimensional qualities or multidimensional process of healing. And so bringing energy psychology into that, we're going to be talking about the nervous system. The more you understand about it, the better off you're going to be in relearning new skills. It's a 12-week weekly meeting. You also have the benefits of community. It comes with a beautiful workbook. So it's a really nice course that puts you on the path to adopting consistent rituals to cultivate change in your life.
I'll tell you, if you're just starting out, having the support and guidance of something like that would be key to success. I mean, I did all of mine through therapy, and so that was remarkably long and expensive, and so something like this to jumpstart the idea of centering and how to do that and how to make a habit out of something we don't usually want to do if we're hurt. It's fantastic, Christa. Thank you so much for creating that.
Right. So that is, Dream Makers is my signature course. We're looking to launch the new and improved in August, somewhere thereabout. So I really encourage you all, as we're coming up here in the last few minutes, get yourself subscribed, go to our websites, subscribe to newsletters. Tabatha, do you have a newsletter?
I do. And you can go ahead and sign up for that at tabathabirdweaver.com. And both of us have YouTube channels, so you can find us there as well.
Right. So YouTube channels, Tabatha has the CPTSD podcast. I have a website. So get yourself signed up. And as you know, we're thinking in terms of retreats. We're talking about podcasts. We're talking about all kinds of things to keep this work that we've started here and this collaboration to keep this moving forward. And so we really encourage you to get yourself signed up, subscribed, so that you can be kept in the loop.
Absolutely. And Christa, I just want to remind you that we also talked about letting people tell us what they're interested in learning about. So if you want to know something, let us know. We're happy to talk about lots of stuff.
Right. And that really helps us a lot. So again, whether you float that question to Tabatha or myself, either one is fine. So get yourself plugged in so you can be kept in the loop. So we're going to prepare ourselves for the final breath here of empowered transformation. I want to thank you all for joining us, for supporting me in this wild adventure that I've had the opportunity to take. I hope that you took away tools. I hope that you took away knowledge that supports you in a deeper compassion for yourself and points you in the direction of cultivating that compassionate companionship with all those bits and pieces of you. I'm going to have you place your hand over your heart center, put a gentle smile on your face, feel gratitude in your heart. I know I'm feeling gratitude in mine. Take a deep breath in And a long, slow exhale out. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Empowered Transformation with Christa Dawson. We hope you have gained insight into the healing process and added tools to your tool belt. Until we talk again, have a beautiful week.